Hi there and welcome to this short video with the car at cruise control at 70 miles per hour. This first screen here has an error because, as I said in previous videos, the vehicle speed is not correct. Sometimes it doesn't update, don't know why. In this video we're going to talk about the EGR valve, we're going to talk about the standard mass fuel flow, whatever that is. We're going to talk about the cam phasing, we're going to talk about the injector load sharing, and we're going to talk about the ignition timing. So let's get started. Notice that the exhaust cam has about 24 degrees of retard. That's crankshaft degrees, so it's 12 camshaft degrees of retard. This will allow for overlap to make the engine breathe better. The intake camshaft is advanced about 5 degrees, once again to help increase the overlap between the two valves. Notice that the MPI injector time is 1691 milliseconds, and it's contributing most of the fuel for this load. If you look up at the individual pulses through the GDI injectors, they're running about 220 microseconds above the default, which is 220. So they're running about 444 microseconds. They're just contributed slightly, but mostly they're keeping the carbon off of the injectors. And the ignition timing at 70 mile per hour cruise appears to vary around 30 degrees advanced. So there you have it for the first 18 seconds of this cruise capture. At 21 seconds, the engine saw an increase in load, probably from an increase in the road surface angle or a gust of wind. Either rate, the map sensor dropped down in voltage because of the load. The MPI injector time increased to 2097. The exhaust cam phasing changed to 122. The intake cam phasing changed to 131. And the GDI injector stayed just about the same. The ignition timing dropped all the way back to 14 degrees advance. And this is to prevent any knocking from occurring due to the additional load. Remember that this engine can set the individual cylinder timing for each cylinder. So if one cylinder starts to ping, that it'll reduce the advance of ignition timing for that cylinder, independent of the other cylinders. So that's a nice feature. So I don't know if a knock occurred to make this wind back the timing, or if it just, due to the throttle plate position and the other parameters, decided to drop it back. Either rate, it dropped back to 14.5 degrees advanced. At 22 seconds, the extra engine mode disappeared. This resulted in the exhaust camshaft phasing starting to change back, heading back towards the minus 99. It's not there yet. It also caused the map pressure to start going up, and it made the ignition timing start going back towards the 30 degrees advance. At 25 seconds, most of the parameters have stabilized back to the normal cruise speed values. The exception is that the MPI injector time is still 1688 milliseconds, headed back towards what it was before. And here at 26 seconds into the capture, the engine is fully established back to the cruise speed of 70 miles per hour. All the parameters are stable at this time. So that's how the system works with a slight engine load increase while on cruise. If I had it to do over, I would include the throttle plate position in this capture, but I failed to do that. And the throttle plate had to move during this increased engine load. We would have seen that, but I didn't think to do that. So if I ever did it again, I would include the throttle plate. You should too. The scan tool name for this is the throttle position sensor angle. When you're on cruise, the throttle position sensors feed the ECM, but it doesn't do anything with them. Instead, the ECM cruise control function controls the throttle valve. Unless you step on the accelerator pedal, then that overrides the cruise control. So in closing, this video clearly demonstrates that this Theta III engine at cruise low power levels runs entirely on the MPI injectors. The GDI injectors are just firing, contributing just a slight little bit to make sure they don't get carboned up. When you go to a full power load situation, then the GDI injectors take over and the MPI injectors shut down. We learned that from previous videos. So this intake valve carbon buildup on the back side of the intake valves should be less on this vehicle than other GDI vehicles, because all the time you're cruising, the valves are being cleaned by the gasoline. My car on cruise at 70 miles per hour usually pulls 37 miles per gallon for instantaneous fuel consumption. This is very efficient, and I really like the car for that reason.